the ulnar styloid process. Are we okay with that? When you get to the carpal bones, there are 8 of them. You have to know all 8, although the only ones you have to palpate are scaphoid, pisiform, capitate, and hamate. So those are the kind of the biggies, the more obvious ones to palpate. So that is on your wrist joint handout, so in case you wonder where I got that. So as far as bone palpation, radial styloid process, ulnar styloid process, and then as far as the carpal bones go, scaphoid's probably the easiest one. What you have your patient do is pull their thumb up like that, and this little box, this little space forms between these 3 tendons. You guys know about this little box?
The snuff box?
Anatomical snuff box! You know why it's called that, right? Yeah. That's exactly why it's called that. Put your little cocaine in there, good to go. That is why it's called that. Huh?
Snuff is actually tobacco.
No, but you're sniffing it. You're sniffing your cocaine.
So sniff box. We'll call it the sniff box.
Okay. We will learn very shortly, if not today, tomorrow, what these 3 tendons are. Do you guys know what these 3 tendons are? Did you learn that?
Nope.
These are the 2 extensor tendons of your thumb and 1 abductor tendon of your thumb. So they form the anatomical snuff box, and we'll talk more about what those tendons are in a second, or maybe later today or tomorrow if we get that far. But the base of that anatomical snuff box is your scaphoid. So if you put your finger on the floor of the anatomical snuff box, you are palpating the scaphoid. What's its clinical significance? Why is it so important to know about the scaphoid? Do you guys know? Also known as navicular. That's its old term, but there's a navicular in the foot too, so not to be confused. But if you hear somebody refer to the navicular in the wrist, it's the scaphoid. Anybody know its clinical significance?
It allows the thumb to...
That's more the trapezium, which sits on top of that, but nice try. The scaphoid's clinical significance is it is a bone that has a very poor blood supply. Only about half of it has decent circulation, and that circulation isn't all that decent. So a lot of times if you have injuries to the thumb, the scaphoid can get fractured. And those fractures a lot of times will get missed, like they don't pick them up on x-ray right away. And so what happens is they're very slow to heal bones, and a lot of times these scaphoids can become necrotic. You can get osteonecrosis of your scaphoid because the blood supply is so bad. So people that have scaphoid fractures will be casted for a very long period of time, usually somewhere in the 3 to 6 month range, to see if it'll heal. And if it won't, then they'll go in and put some pins and screws in it to see if it'll heal. And if that doesn't work, then the bone will die. So you're talking scaphoid injuries are bad injuries because they can take up to a year to heal. That tiny little bone won't heal because of its low blood supply. If it doesn't heal, it will become necrotic, and then it's going to mess with your carpometacarpal joint, which is really your trapezium and your first metacarpal, but the scaphoid is the base of that. And so it's kind of creating the stability to your carpometacarpal joint, and it will create instabilities of the thumb if it becomes necrotic. Clinical significance of the scaphoid: very slow to heal bone, very low blood supply, commonly fractured but not easily picked up clinically. Sometimes it's missed, and even if it is picked up, it takes a very, very, very long time to heal, if it heals at all. Okay, so that's scaphoid. So then if you follow along, pisiform and hamate are going to be over here. So pisiform is the more pronounced, most medial one. And then hamate, you're just going to get the hook. So if you go straight down from the 5th metacarpal, you get the pisiform. If you come up and in a little bit, that's the hook of the hamate. It's more between the 4th and the 5th. It's a little bit more distal and lateral than the pisiform. Okay, so you find the pisiform kind of go this direction, go distal and lateral, and you'll get the hook of the hamate. It's not comfortable. Clinical significance of the hook of the hamate is it is the attachment to the transverse carpal ligament that is the roof of the carpal tunnel. So the carpal tunnel is enclosed by this transverse carpal ligament, and that ligament attaches to the hook of the hamate. Okay, so hook of the hamate, pisiform. Pisiform doesn't have a huge clinical significance. It's just very easily palpable. But hook of the hamate has a big one. And then the cavitate, it says put your hand this way. You can also put your hand this way. If you extend your wrist, it creates a little divot right there. That little divot is where your cavitate is. Because it's a big flat bone. And so if you get through your extensor tendons, relax. Some people say if you just hold your wrist neutral here and you feel here and there's a little divot, that divot is your cavitate. Okay? Some people, when they do this, they'll stick out. It's pretty much in line with your third metacarpal too. People that have really bony wrists, sometimes they'll stick out if you flex them. Okay, so your paper says you can have them do this, but if it works better like this, or if you have them do this, whatever works for you to get the cavitate. Okay? So scaphoid, cavitate, pisiform, hook of the hamate is really the only part of the hamate that you're really going to get. Radial and ulnar collateral ligaments, all you got to do is come off the styloid process, and you're on the collateral ligaments. The radial one is here, the ulnar one is here. And they obviously check radial and ulnar deviation. Okay, I can only ulnarly deviate so far because of my radial collateral ligament, and I can only radial deviate so far because of my ulnar collateral ligament, and also because I run into bone. That's a bony infield too. Okay. Dorsal and palmar radiocarpal ligaments are basically the glue that holds all the carpals together. As far as palpating them, they're deep to the wrist flexor and extensor tendons. So you just got to be in the area. So if I go, okay, the palmar radiocarpal ligament is right here, but it's under all these flexor tendons. Same with the dorsal one. The dorsal one, if you're on the radiocarpal joint, you're on the dorsal radiocarpal ligament, but all the extensor tendons run on top of that. Okay? Their jobs are to resist flexion and extension. So obviously if I flex my wrist, there's a check rein there that my dorsal radiocarpal ligament only lets you go so far, along with some active and passive insufficiency of your long finger tendons. Same with wrist extension. My palmar radiocarpal ligament is going to resist that. Okay? So ligament-wise, radiocollateral, ulnar collateral, also known as medial and lateral collaterals. Palmar radiocarpal, dorsal radiocarpal, and then palmar fascia really should probably be in the hand discussion, but it starts in the wrist. So you got to talk about it because it starts here in the wrist and then it comes up. And it's basically the soft tissue structure that creates the structure in the middle part of your hand. So when you talk about your little lifelines of your hand, that's the palmar fascia that helps create some of that. Its big job, palmar fascia-wise, is to protect the structures of the palm. It's very, very thick. It's very, very tight. That's why if you get a hand injury, your palm doesn't swell. All the swelling goes to here because the palmar fascia is very, very tight. So the swelling doesn't have anywhere to go. So it'll come here. Okay? So all of that is palmar fascia, and it comes all the way up here to the metacarpal phalangeal joints. So it kind of fans out to each finger. Okay? And we'll see that a little bit more when we show the video about ligaments of the hand, because we still got a couple more ligaments to cover in the hand as far as the flexor and extensor retinaculum and the extensor hood. But that's the palmar fascia. So palmar fascia, palmar radiocarpal ligament, dorsal radiocarpal ligament, radial collateral ligament, ulnar collateral ligament, radial styloid process, ulnar styloid process, scaphoid, capitate, pisiform, hook of the hamate. Okay? If you're really good, you can find all 8 carpal bones, but the ones you're responsible for are those 4, as far as comp worthy. But you still gotta know all 8 carpal bones. You gotta be able to name them in order as far as their location. But as far as palpation, comp-wise, those 4 carpal bones. Okay? Good?